Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kelly and this is Yaya Simple Living. So today I thought that we would make some warm, soft, cheesy bread. So this recipe makes 2 loaves of bread. We're actually gonna make 2 different kinds. We're gonna make a Parmesan, garlic, and herb bread, and we're gonna make a cheddar and herb bread. These breads are really good they look phenomenal, but they're also really good if you wanna make like a grilled cheese sandwich, they're really good for. If you wanna have them as garlic bread on your pasta night, or if you have leftovers, you can make croutons out of them. So I hope you'll join me. I hope this is something that you find interesting and that you'll join me. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to proof our yeast. So to do that, we are going to add a cup of warm water. And if you want your bread to be extra soft, you can add leftover water from cooking potatoes or pasta, which is what I'm doing here. So we have 1 cup of warm water. We have 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. And then we're going to add to that 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. And we're going to mix that in. And then to give the yeast a little bit of extra help, we are also going to add a little bit of our sugar. So our recipe calls for 5 tablespoons of sugar. And we're just going to add a little bit of our sugar. So just a couple pinches of our sugar, just to give our yeast something to snack on while it is proofing. So that's going to take about 5 minutes. So once that is proofed, we will be back. Okay, so our yeast is nice and foamy. Our water and our milk was at room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of melted butter, which I did also let cool down a little bit. Let me get a little spatula so I can just scrape all this out. Okay, we want to get every bit in there. And I'm going to add the rest of our 5 tablespoons of sugar. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. And let me put my dough hook on. And then what I'm going to do is first I'm going to add about half of my flour. So this is 6.5 cups of flour. I'm going to go ahead and add a good bit of it just to get it kind of started. I did not measure this in grams just because I need new batteries for my scale, but we'll go ahead and get this started, and then we'll slowly add the rest of our flour in till we get to the consistency of the dough that we want. Go ahead and scrape down the sides. Add some more of my flour. Alright, so this is still pretty sticky, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of this flour. And it doesn't surprise me that it's still sticky because today is a very humid day. We've had a lot of rain, so there is a lot of moisture in the air. And you have to be kind of cognizant of what your weather's like when you're making bread. Because if you're doing it on a really muggy day, you may need more flour. If you're doing it on a dry day, you may need more. So you just kind of, as you do it, you get used to what the consistency and what you're looking for. Okay, so once everything is incorporated and it's kind of cleaning the sides of the bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cover up the bowl for and let it sit for about 5 minutes, just to kind of let the flour hydrate, and then we'll come back and we'll knead it. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna knead this for about 10 minutes until the dough is nice and soft and pliable, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so we've let our mixer knead our dough. And now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just a couple minutes just knead it by hand. This gives me a way to kind of feel the dough and make sure that it's kneaded enough. So let me get it out of the bowl here. Get all of it out. And I'm using a bowl scraper to do that. You can use a spatula. I just find the bowl scrapers a little bit easier. Put that there. So look how nice. Ooh, it's still a little sticky, but our dough is very soft. Okay, so I'm just gonna knead it a little bit, and then what we're gonna do once it's kneaded, I am going to place this in a lightly oiled bowl. I'm just gonna spray some cooking spray in a bowl, and I'm going to cover it. You can either cover it with plastic wrap, or I actually have bowl covers that I use. And at that point, you can let it rise at room temperature until it's doubled in size, or you can even refrigerate this dough for up to 4 days if you're not ready to use it yet. So, okay, so let's see here. Look how beautiful our dough is. Nice and soft. All right, silky. It's like, yeah, it has like a silky feel to it. It's beautiful. All right, so let me get our oiled bowl. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and I am going to oil both sides of it, okay? And I'm gonna put this in the bowl. I'm gonna cover it up, and you can let it set at room temperature. I'm actually gonna use my bread proofing setting on my oven. You can also just put it in your oven with the light on and no temperature, and that'll make it warm enough so that it'll rise. We are actually having a heat wave here in upstate New York, so I don't think this is gonna take 60 to 90 minutes to double in size, but we shall see. So once it doubles in size, we'll be back to show you what to do next. All right, so we need grated Parmesan cheese for one of our breads. So I'm gonna go ahead and I have my Parmesan cheese here. I'm gonna cut the rind off because I do save that and put it in my freezer, and then you can throw it in soups or whatever to give some flavor to your soups. And then I'm just gonna shred up part of this, and then I'm gonna throw it in the freezer. Okay, so my leftover Parmesan cheese, I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum seal it so that it will last longer. I have the rind in there. Okay, and then I'm actually gonna throw this back in my refrigerator because I will be using it again, so I may not have to freeze it. So for my cheddar cheese, I am also going to shred it up now. And actually, I think I'm going to shred up this whole thing of cheddar cheese, and then I can store it shredded because I don't really use cheddar cheese unless it's shredded. So, and then I have silicone bags that I can stick it in the freezer. And then I have pre-shredded cheese for use in casseroles and whatever. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then as soon as our bread has doubled in size, we'll be ready to go to the next step. Okay guys, so we are back. Our bread has doubled in size, our dough. So we are gonna go to the next step. So let me get my apron on here. All right, so I'm going to put my dough out onto a lightly floured surface. I'm actually gonna put a little flour on top. All right, I'm gonna use my dough scraper. Get that out of the bowl. Put my bowl right there. Okay. And I'm going to cut this in half because I'm going to make 2 separate loaves. All right. So this loaf is gonna go into our bowl and get covered up so it doesn't dry out while we make our cheddar and herb bread. Get it covered up here. Okay. All right, so we're gonna make our cheddar and herb bread, and to do that, we're gonna roll our bread out into a nice rectangle. And I like to move my dough around just to make sure that it's not gonna stick. All right, so then what I'm gonna do is I am going to take 2 cups of cheddar cheese and I'm gonna spread it over the top. And I'm using both white and yellow cheddar cheese for a little variety. So that's gonna go over the top of it. Okay. Get it all spread out so it's even. Okay, and then you can either use a 1/4 cup of fresh or a heaping tablespoon of dried herbs. So I'm using parsley. I do have fresh parsley in my garden, but the dried parsley was just easier to get to. So I'm gonna sprinkle that. Okay. Then you're gonna start at the short end and you're gonna roll it up like it's a jelly roll. And you want it kind of tight because you don't want it to fall apart with what we're gonna do next. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this over here, kind of once the sides in, and I'm gonna seal it. Okay, so nothing comes out. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut it in half, like this. Okay. And I'm going to turn it so that it faces up. And let me turn it this way because it's going to be easier. And I am going to connect the sides here. And I'm just going to braid it like this. Just twist it over itself. Just like this. Okay? Then I'm going to put it into an oiled loaf pan. Okay, and we're going to cover this and we're going to let it rise until it's just over the top. So then we're ready to work on our Parmesan cheese. So let me get this one covered and I'll be back to work on our Parmesan garlic herb bread. So here's what our cheddar bread looks like in the pan. And then I'm just going to cover it with saran wrap. I know a lot of people don't like to use saran wrap, but I find that it's easiest. So I'm just gonna cover that up and get ready to do my Parmesan bread. Okay, so now we have our dough for our Parmesan, garlic, and herb. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna make a rectangle. Hopefully my rectangle will be better than the last one. And you may need to let your dough rest a little bit in between if it's pulling back, because that's just the gluten working in the dough. And just let it rest for a minute and then just keep going. All right, so now with this one though, it's a little bit different. We're gonna take a 1/4 cup of butter and we're gonna spread that onto our dough. So again, just like you would for cinnamon rolls, we're gonna spread that on. Once we get that spread on, we're going to take 1.5 to 2 cups of freshly grated or shredded Parmesan cheese. I like the shredded. And we're gonna spread that onto our dough. Okay. Then we're gonna take 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna measure this because I love garlic powder, and I use this Penzeys roasted garlic powder, which is absolutely delicious. So I'm just gonna sprinkle that on. Again, 1/2 teaspoon, but I enjoy garlic, so I'm just gonna sprinkle how much I think would taste delicious. And then once that's done, you're gonna take either a 1/4 cup of fresh herbs or a tablespoon of dried herbs. And again, this is dried Parmesan. And I actually have fresh Parmesan in my garden, but this is actually dried garlic or dried parsley from my garden. Okay, and then we're gonna roll this up just like we did the last one. You wanna roll it pretty tight so it doesn't fall apart. And because we use that potato water, this bread is gonna be so soft and delicious. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and seal it. Okay, and cut it in half like I did the last one. Now you can do all kinds of different fillings for this. If you like olives, you could do like olives, you could do roasted red peppers. You could kind of do whatever kind of fillings you want. I've done cinnamon and sugar on these, so it's, you know, completely up to you. Now the problem that you run into is that the seam does kind of open sometimes. So you just kind of have to push it back together best you can. They look kind of messy, but when they cook, they are absolutely beautiful. So put that like there. Again, we have our oiled loaf pan, and we're just gonna put that in there as neatly as possible. And I just take all the stuff that fell out and just sprinkle it back on top. And again, the same thing. We're going to cover this and let it rise until it reaches the top of the pan, maybe a little bit over. And then we'll bake it. So I'll be back when it's time to bake. Okay, so our bread has risen a little bit, about an inch above the top of the pan. So it is ready to be baked. So I'm gonna bake this at 350 degrees, and it's going to be for 45 to 50 minutes, but after 25 minutes, I'm going to rotate it and I'm gonna cover it up with foil because it'll be pretty dark by then. So I will be back when this comes out of the oven. Okay, our bread is out. Here is our Parmesan garlic and herb loaf. I'm gonna set the pans here to cool for a few minutes before I take them out of the pan. And then this is our cheddar and herb loaf. So I think they came out beautiful. So we're gonna let them cool for a few minutes and then take them out of the pan. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. Also, please give this a thumbs up in YouTube. That is a like. And if you want to get notified every time I upload a new video, go ahead and hit that bell icon and you'll get notified. Please feel free to share this video with your friends. It will really help my channel grow and I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for watching and I will see you guys next time. Bye.